Welcome, every shoot. Let me fix that. All right. Now we're fixed. So thank you, folks, for showing up tonight, despite my total disorganization at the opening of the show. This is Counterclipping show number 177 for June 17th, 2024. Origins 2024 is upon us in just a couple of days. I'll be leaving relatively early on Wednesday. I will probably get there in the neighborhood of noon on Wednesday. So that is our topic tonight, and those who are not clued into the Origins loop might be shocked by the amount of Wargaming goodness that is happening at Origins this year, and we're going to talk about that, and as well as, whatever other random nonsense comes up. So speaking of random nonsense, the first thing I'm going to do before I forget to do so is I'm going to throw in the chat links to the bingo cards for our off-topic bingo cards. Let me know if anybody hits a bingo on this. I won't be shocked. I wanted a relatively fluid topic this evening without a lot of preparation, so we're going to talk about what is happening at Origins and stuff. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. We are still clipping War in Europe. There's a pretty good chance I'll finish it during the show tonight, but I haven't done really any clipping stuff all week because other things have been going on. So, in any case, Jeff Beal, you should have come down to Origins last year. We were literally, was that last year or the year before? I want to say it was last year, where we did Third World War, and we included Arctic Front. If you'd have been there, we might have continued with Arctic Front. As it was, we put it to one side. So we'll talk about all the stuff that's going on. I'll talk about what the content creation plans for Origins are as well. So, and possibly we'll go through the shopping list, which is, maybe not as big as it has been in previous years, but, folks at Chaosium are going to be happy, I can tell you that. All right, so we're drinking Michter's small batch bourbon, bottled at 47.5%, something like that, 45.7%. I was kind of close. It is excellent with just neat. I'm fine with drinking it just neat. So anyway, before we get started on tonight's show, I'd like to remind everybody to please do like the videos, subscribe to the channel if you are not already subscribed, and I would like to give a shout out to our good friends at Noble Knight, from whom we will be hearing later. I don't have a new progress report on the campaign, but I hope that by the time the next update happens, we will have a progress report on the campaign. And super chats and super stickers are on. It is a great way to support the channel, as well as get your comment highlighted, because otherwise it is possible I will miss it. Because typically we have a lot of people. We had over 200. I forget what the actual number was last week, but it was really high. So there's a pretty excellent chance I'll miss comments. Right? We could all make a joke about me being behind on the chat. That's very likely to happen. But before we get any further, let's say hello to Alan Salzar, Bayonet Brant from the Armchair Dragons, who offered to come on tonight, and I told him no, and I probably should have said yes. Brent McCabe, Charles Latorre, Chet Bell, Dale Brady, Daniel Silverthorne, David Imperato, Mr. David Thompson, thanks for coming by. David Zell, hope to see you, David, in a couple of days. David Thompson, not David Zell. Unless David Zell is coming to Origins too, which would be great. Grunyard Rich, HUN644 new. The legend himself, Fucko, is in the house. I got the haircut for Origins, frankly, because I don't like to look like a bum at Origins. James Conway, Jason W., Jeff Anderson, Jeff Beeler, Jeffrey Edwards, Joe Okabayashi, John Mogg, John Stanley, John Clark, Jonathan Dyer. Jonathan, thanks you very much. I got your package today. Lee Grant, Marty Sample is here. Meandering Mike, whose channel you should all be subscribed to. Michael Simon, Panzer Division Lair, Patrick of Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials, whose channel you should all be subscribed to. Paul Dangle, Perfidious Albion, Perry Spropolis, Stacking Limit, Todd Miller, Vicky is here. Vicky, welcome back to the show. Vincenzo Beretta, Wade Moore, William Boardman, William Campbell, and Winterson. And I apologize to everybody. Joe Hammond is here. I apologize to everybody that I have missed. And as usual, it is YouTube's fault. So, I don't know. Robert Maxey, I didn't get you. Manders, I don't think I got you. The Pico Armor folks are here. Pico Armor, welcome to the show. Glad to see you here. E4 Airman from sunny Southern Ohio, or Southwest Ohio, I suppose. Eric Goebel's going to try and get to Origins next year. That would be fantastic. It is a great convention. It was a great convention. So it is a great convention. Sorry. in any case. So we're, and there's a bunch of links to support the show in the video description, the Patreon link and the Noble Knight affiliate link and all that stuff. As for those who don't know already, I am engaged in, I guess I'll pull the checker up. We're doing the campaign for the Finnish trilogy. The way to support this campaign is, I mean, if you want to send me money, cool. But the better way to support this campaign will be to use the affiliate link in the video description for Noble Knight. If you buy stuff from them, I get a little bit of a kickback, and then when enough credit builds up, I will buy volume 3 of the Finnish trilogy. We are 2 of 3 down so far. And I'll tell you what, the games look pretty cool. So I am very impressed with what I have seen from them so far. But you better be super into that topic, because for one thing, because they're super detailed and they're super expensive. So there's that. Yep, Stigler, this is going to be great. You're going to have a great time. I expect a full report on how much fun you have and how much grousing occurs at Constant World Expo. So, I badgered Stigler to come to Buckeye Game Fest to play GBACW with us, and there was just no interest was expressed. I asked a couple of people about that from the GBACW folks. So, yeah, Jeff, I've done this too. I'm not doing this anymore. I will pay for the hotel room. Thank you very much. My back will no longer support this kind of activity. So. And there's SD HisCon, folks. Harold, assuming this is Harold. If this is Harold, hi, Harold. If it's not, then hi, whoever Harold has assigned to work this task. But yeah, the SD HisCon event in Newport, Rhode Island sounds amazing. It is in August. It sold out very quickly last year. I believe there are still a small number of seats available. So we may also talk about, for those, at least if we want to, sort of strategies for approaching a large convention, or cons in general, but a large convention such as Origins. And it is a large convention, right? If you are the kind of person that gets, like, say, anxiety in crowds, perhaps Origins is not the place for you, if you know what I'm saying. It is possible to avoid the crowds, however. Just stay on the Hyatt side and do Hyatt stuff, which is basically all the RPG stuff and a few of the board games. I don't know if Brant's got this on the list or not. So we're going to go through a big list of Wargame and Wargame adjacent things going on at Origins. And I have at least one thing that may or may not be on there. It may be on here. It's not on here, which I will be able to add to this list. Brant, you missed one. But the only reason you missed it is because you didn't know about it, and I do, because I got an email from Mark Walker. So, but I would call what Mark will be doing on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Wargame adjacent. So this would be actually quite neat. This would be quite neat, I think. Undaunted Iron Bottom Sound, I could get behind that. So, in any case, Origins begins. This will be, I want to say, the 30th Origins in Columbus, Ohio. Is that right? No, it'll be the 29th Origins in Columbus, Ohio. Because the first Origins that was in Columbus was in 1996. That was my second Origins. The one before that was, Harold. Killing me here, Harold. You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. Anyway, so the last Origins that was not in Columbus was in Philadelphia. I went to that Origins as a representative of a now defunct CCG magazine called Conjure Magazine, which I thought everybody had totally forgotten about. And I mean, I mostly had forgotten about it as well. I was their copy editor and they didn't listen to me. And I wrote some articles and did some interviews for them. And the magazine didn't last very long. It lasted a year or two. And but they were represented at Origins. It was a big thing. It was in the then brand new convention center in downtown Philadelphia, which was surrounded by condemned buildings and adult bookstores. So it was a charming facility. And no, we did not get Philly cheesesteaks. Vincenzo Beretta, he can fly to the USA for Gen Con. You may want to monitor this. I would expect that there are a few odds and ends type war games happening at Gen Con. There was the Gen Con Insurgency, which was at least the Players Aid guys were helping with it. I don't think they were the organizers. And then COVID came and kind of screwed everything up, and I don't believe that that particular event has returned. Nevertheless, I would be shocked if you cannot find Wargames there. I can tell you that Brant, does Enterprise Games vend at Gen Con? Because they're local. I mean, they could. I know Decision does not. So because I get the Decision convention schedule. So Stigler, you'll be disappointed if you go to Gen Con. And speaking of crowds, if you might flake out in a crowd, maybe definitely don't go to Gen Con. Because that is absolutely bananas. As Marty points out, just check out some of the pictures from last year of Gen Con and the crowds. It is insane. So yeah, as Marty mentions, it will be small. I would expect a less presence of Wargames there than at Origins. But the reason is not because there are no Wargamers there. The reason is because, as far as I'm aware, there's no organizing group to do war games there. So if I didn't say this, Vincenzo, thank you very much for the support, and thank you, John Stanley. This is true. I mean, this is why night battles are a mess, right? So that is true. Now, I didn't think this was the case. Maybe this is new this year, or maybe I'm full of shit. That could happen. So Brant says they've been there to Gen Con off and on over the years. And I mean, it's an expensive convention to go to, even though they are local. So I find this unsurprising as well. And I'm almost done with the counters I had in the tray already. There's plenty more to do. This is War in Europe after all. Incidentally, if anyone is interested in War in Europe, and I want to say that we'd be talking about the SPI version here, and is going to Compass Expo in November. Paul Koenig is trying to organize a game. So how you would get a hold of Paul is, I guess you would look him up on Facebook. But I know that Paul wants to do it, and I'd be like, man, if I was going, I would happily play War in Europe. That would be fantastic. Jeff Anderson says that there's war games in the auctions. There always have been. I would imagine that would still be the case. I just haven't been to a Gen Con in 20 plus years, so I have no idea what the current state of play. And Osprey will be there, so that means David Thompson will be there. So there'll be some representation. So this is basically exactly what I'm saying, Brant, except that I would never call you an asshole. I have a variety of colorful names for you, but asshole is not one of them. You're not really a terrible asshole, to be honest. Jeff Anderson says Games Plus has been a vendor lately. I am not familiar with Game. I mean, I've heard of them, but other than that, I am not sure I have ever dealt with them. So David says Undaunted Callisto and War Story Occupied France will be available at Gen Con. So that's pretty cool. Where's a let's see here. I got to try not to flip this all over the place because I've got counters on the lid of the counter tray, and that is bad form. We've just done the commonly allied replacement counters, I suppose is what we're saying. Meandering Mike has just ordered Undaunted Callisto and the Nations and Cannons people. I can never remember. I'm not really super duper clued in on the D&D 5th edition loop. I mean, I'm on Twitter, so you kind of can't help but hear a lot of flack whenever Wizards of the Coast fucks up something else, which trends every time they do it on Twitter, and they do it about every 2 to 3 weeks. Wizards of the Coast has fucked up something new, so they have made it stepping on rakes and art form. William Boardman is asking about Hurtgen-Hell's Forest. I have noodled with it, but it is not one of the 2 Goss games that I have played a good chunk of. Those would be Atlantic Wall and Vakdam Rhine. However, it's a later game than... I'm actually not sure that that's true. It's kind of got the smallest footprint of all the Goss games that have come out, so it's kind of the easiest to digest. You definitely do want the new rules, which you can just download. You also want the new charts because they are better organized. Last I checked, maybe this has changed. You could not just download those. Decision was at one point selling an updated charts pack, but they sold out very quickly. So And okay, so Daniel says they're not. I did not research this. I'm not going, so I have no reason to spend a lot of legwork time working on who is and who isn't at Gen Con. So it's a great convention. I mean, I'm saying that from memory. Like I said, I haven't been there since they left Milwaukee. So you know, take all this for what it's worth. All right, so we're going to go here and we're going to look at the events, the giant events grid. So first of all, let me throw the link to this grid in the chat so that everybody can take a look at it independently and or note down event numbers so you can register for these events via tabletop events. So this is not all war games. We're going to read the whole list off. There's like almost 300 listings on here. There's some war. Ooh, we've got a couple of problems I see. There are some Wargame adjacent things that are in here. The one thing, I'll mention it now because otherwise I'll forget about it. Tiny Battles Publishing has an RPG called Dark War. This came up in the context of, I'm not sure I knew about this, but I started doing stuff on RPGs from Wargame publishers, and Tiny Battle has one. Lock and Load has one too, and I will eventually have to do some coverage on that. But Mark will be running a Dark War event on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. That is not on here. You'll have to look it up. But if you look up Dark War on tabletop events, the search will, I'm sure, return that as well as 200 other things that have nothing to do with what you searched for. So, Mandering Mike says there's a couple of Dark War novels as well. I think I did know about this. So, oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so let's start with that then. Brant, thanks for correcting that. All right, yeah, so hold on. We'll find it. We'll look at the exhibitor stuff as well. There we go. That's not the thing I was looking for. This is a cool article, though. I will say that. So basically what Brant is saying here, that these are the adjacent events rather than the Dragoons events. But we've already been through the Dragoons event. So there we go. All right, so we'll look at this one first. And we'll buzz through this really fast. A lot of these are the minis games, and not all the minis games are really historical. I would say that that's fair. So here's miniatures games for Ironclad, Civil War, Battle of Memphis. That's historical. There's Kings of War, Armada. I'm reasonably confident that that is not a historical game. Airships and Empires. I think that's some kind of steampunk thing. Armored Predators, which sounds like tanks to me. Sounds like Panthers, in fact. Ironclads, Beginners, Wings of Glory, Colt Express, more Wings of Glory, Blackwater Gulch, whatever that is. Conflict of Arms, Vietnam, 1965. I think I've seen this, and I would call it says it's a board game, and I would agree with that. Excuse me. There's some bolt action stuff. Bolt action, for those who don't know, is a World War II miniatures system. It is fairly popular. Here's Operation Unthinkable, which is a minis game. A lot of more Wings of Glory. Here's an Axis and Allies game. No shock that that will be occurring. Aerodrome. I think Aerodrome is that World War I dogfighting game with the sort of fancy panels and the airplane models on antennas and stuff. That's fairly neat. Oh, cool. Rob Johnson picked up Air and Armor. So, yeah, I don't care. This is fine. Actually, that's a good point. We'll actually do it that way. So there's a couple things from Academy. It looks like 1775 Rebellion. Here's Naval Admiralty Group Naval Miniatures game. Tons of this aerodrome stuff that more or less runs constantly. I would recommend. I've never done it, so don't do as I do. Do as I say. But I would recommend doing aerodrome for the experience of it. It looks neat. I've been meaning to do it for years. Affaire de More, that does not sound Wargame adjacent at all, Brent. I don't know what it is. There's Aliens Bug Hunt. That is a board game. It's probably Aliens related, I would think. There's a bunch of Austerlitz, Praxen Heights minis games happening here. Axis and Allies. If this is the only Axis and Allies game happening at Origins, I would be friggin' stunned. Brant says that the Admiralty Group game is the Larry Bond game. So that's cool. Kyle Harris, thanks for stopping by. So Alistair's having some internet problems. Bolt Action. Did I know that Bolt Action was Osprey? Maybe I didn't. I'm aware of Bolt Action because I've seen people playing it. So there's that. Battles on the Frontier. We're talking about almost entirely minis games here. Ben-Hur, that sounds like it might be fun. Blood Red Skies, which is a minis game of some kind. Cartoon Network Crossover Crisis. Not sure why that's on here either, Brent. Got to tell you. Colt Express, which sounds like Cowboys and Indians. And then there's the War College at the bottom here, too, that we'll need to look at. So now we got to go back up to the top. That's inconvenient. This Conflict of Arms thing, Cruel Seas, Depot Raid, Drop Fleet Commander, which is a sci-fi spaceship. I think it's both spaceships and ground combat, as I recall. It's possible that the localization of Bolt Action is done by Osprey somewhere too. Warlord Games sounds right to me, but if Osprey's the vendor in the UK, that would make a lot of sense. So in Meandering Mike, who's, let's take his word for it. It's a collaboration between Warlord Games and Osprey Games, which makes total sense. So, and Joe Mentum chimes in with something very similar here. Firefight Freedom, the Underground Railroad. I've played this. This is from Academy Games. It's not a war game. It is a historical board game where you, the players, are cooperatively playing as the Underground Railroad. It is a tremendous game. Highly recommended. I believe, I admittedly haven't played every game that Academy has done, but I have played more than this, and this is, I think, objectively the best and most interesting game that they've done. And I like 1775 Rebellion. This Berg Turp, so it depends where you're at. If you are in the UK, then this is true, and this has always been the case. But if you don't worry, we'll get to the board stuff later. But if you're in the US, it's a little more gray than, let me put this up because this is a little bit better. It's a little more of a gray term. It's, if you say wargaming to a person that doesn't know what you're talking about already in England, they will think you're talking about miniatures. If you say it in the UK, it's hit or miss. You're less likely to have somebody think you're just talking about miniatures without asking. I expect him to be there, doing the that Uwe is so good at. So I think he's just super busy, and we haven't had him on, so there's that. So this includes all the war game adjacent stuff too. That's what we're going through first, because this is, I'm moving as fast as possible. So we will get to the War College stuff next, and then we will do the Dragoons events, which is kind of the core of wargaming that I am interested in. So, all right. So Gang Rumble on the Mean Streets. That sounds like Necromunda. General Glenn's Western Showdown and World War II Combat, whoever General Glenn was. Getaway 2, Grey Lady Dancing, Have a Nice Trip, House by House, bunch of Ironclad stuff. Junta, that's fun, and I would call it war game adjacent. I mean, it came out of West End Games back in the day. Kill Team, Miniatures, Kings of War, I personally have no interest in that. I believe that to be fantasy miniatures. Yeah. He's good at it, so I don't blame him. I expect him to be there. So, in any case, Modern Chinese Invasion of Taiwan as a minis game. This sounds like it could potentially be interesting. I wonder if the people that did Tarawa a few years ago are the people doing that. There's the National Security Decision Making game. This, along with a couple of the other things that I'll mention later, is one of those things that it's not a war game as such, but I recommend that if you are a war gamer, I recommend participating in this. Origins is not the only event this happens at, but Origins is a good opportunity to do it because you'll have a choice of either 4-hour or 8-hour events. So highly recommended to wargamers, whether you think you will like it or not. Operation Unthinkable, Operation, a variety of various operations. These are all, I mean, I assume this is the thing with the magnets and the thing that buzzes if you touch the metal rails. Pegasus Bridge minis, Raid at Kittening, Raptors, Cold War jet fighter combat. That might be interesting. Saga Dark Ages tournament, Sails of Glory, which is Age of Sail ships with pre-painted miniatures. It's actually pretty cool. Save the Yorktown, Scotch on the Rocks. I mean, only if you're a Philistine. Sergeants, I've seen Sergeants too. Those folks were actually at Origins vending at one point, and I haven't seen them in a few years. Sky Pirates, SOG. Brant, what is SOG? The Frontier is Aflame, Weird and Dangerous Happenings. It's a great whiskey raid. I'd be interested in raiding for some whiskey. Skirmish at Wilcoff Farm. There's a whole bunch of additional, quite specific miniatures games here. Total Civil War, 1861 to 1965. Well, my curiosity is piqued, I gotta tell you. Not sure what that is, but I might drop by and give it a look. Twilight 2000 events. I'd be stunned if these didn't all sell out. I don't know whether, maybe Brant does. SOG is Special Operations Group. John MC, thanks for stopping by. Oh, excellent. Yes, John, I've seen you around on the comments here and there, as I recall. Welcome to the live show. That's fantastic. More Wings of Glory. So I assume that this is not a misprint. Wo ist die Abtei? Because Brant speaks German, so I would think he got that right. But the people that put the event in may not have, so there's that. What a Tanker. I think I didn't get this out. I'm not sure whether this will be the new Twilight 2000 from Free League. I would, if I had to guess, I'd say it probably is. Or the old Twilight 2000 from GDW. But it could be either one. There's still people literally doing Space 1889 stuff at Origins every year. So it could be the GDW version. Who knows? Lots of minis. Good. You know, I have felt like the roster of minis games has been a bit lean in recent years, and I'm not sure why that is. There's no shortage of space, that's for sure. So it's good to see that there will be plenty of minis action this year. I mean, unless it's happening in a part of the convention center where I don't normally spend much time, that's possible. That was the case. There was a whole miniatures hall at one point. But they haven't done that in a while. Oh, excellent. Brant says the T2K games are the GDW T2K. So I'm not surprised by that particularly, but it wouldn't have been my guess. Fidelis, welcome to the show. What a Tanker is a great convention game. That sounds like it might be fun. And there's 4 of those happening. A bunch of Wings of Glory. There's this Wo ist die Abtei? World War I balloon busting, that could be fun. And this is all Wings of Glory stuff. XCOM, the board game. Are there any more? Nope, there aren't any more. So that's like the adjacent events. Okay, so stuff that, there's some wargaming stuff in here. And, you know, some of this stuff, you can't not call the historical miniatures games war games, right? Lost Battalion is who I was thinking of that did the Sergeant's game, as I recall. Yeah, well, they're not the only people that ever have a disagreement over policy with Gamma. Let me put it that way. We also have the War College. Okay. And there's a bunch of stuff here, and all this is probably going to be very interesting. Well, I don't want to say all of it, but you know, you pick and choose the topics that are of interest to you. These are seminars. Okay. So they're usually 2 hours, usually. Some of them are an hour, and they'll be on a variety of military history topics and modern conflict topics and stuff like that. So we have the problem of America's secrets. The speaker will be Scott McMahon. Merle Robinson, who is one of the people that does the NSDM game, the National Security Decision Making game, We'll be doing a seminar on or talk on wargaming and education, research, and business. That could be interesting. 75th anniversary of the first Soviet nuclear tests by Mark McDonough. That sounds like it could be pretty interesting as well. Alternate history in board games and American and Canadian coast defense, both by Gordon Bliss. Those will be fairly interesting. Alternate history in board war games. You might assume that I would not be interested in that, but I might stick my head in there, actually. That could potentially be interesting. Lessons from recent conflicts is another Merle and the NSDM team will be doing type of thing. Dana Lombardi will be doing Who Will Own the Moon, talking about potential future conflicts. Van Young, A Day in the Life of a Civil War Artilleryman. That sounds pretty interesting. Ooh, this is the non-drag. Well, we'll get to the Dragoons events in a minute. So there's a lot going on here is the point. Battle of Narvik in April 1940. Lunar colonization. Matt Caffrey will be doing You Want or Told to Apply Wargaming for National Defense. I assume that you would like to, or you have been instructed to by your superiors. This is Matt Caffrey's wheelhouse, so this ought to be a very good talk. Oh, Vincenzo. Oh, I'm dying here. The Road Not Taken, Applying Experimental History by Matt Caffrey. That might also be fairly interesting. I'm interested in alternate history as a genre. I don't particularly like playing alternate history games that are like discretely alternate history games. The Narvik thing could be pretty cool too, as Eric Goebel points out. I agree with that. Where's my giant robot? I would love to have a giant robot, I got to tell you. Larry Bond's naval warfare highlights, including the Red Sea crisis. Larry Bond is the guy on this topic. What the U.S. Navy talked to me about Starfleet by Chris Woove. Chris is a good guy. We'll be looking forward to catching up with him at Origins. And he participates. It's not his channel, I don't think. You might say so. You might say so. But lots of folks are into the alternate history stuff, right? In one capacity or another. All right. America's V Submarines 100th anniversary. Toward the next generation of wargaming. Why, what, and how by Matt Caffrey. Matt Caffrey is a cornerstone of the War College. So just to get that out. Miracle of the Marne, that'd be interesting. And Race to the Sea, these are World War I topics by David Marsh. Those would be interesting. Demographics and the Destiny of Nations, potentially interesting. Intolerable 1774, the 250th anniversary by Mark McDonough. Sounds cool. Civil War, Tennessee, Forts Henry and Donelson. You know, I'm almost positive I will not be able to attend this, but I would totally go to that. Continuing war in Ukraine and recent new conflicts. Green Men, POWs, and Paperclips by Kathleen Caffrey. The WPAFB History of Military Art. That sounds pretty interesting. The U.S. Petrodollar. Civil War Petersburg Outside the Trenches by James Ryan. Larry Bond will be talking about his writing. That's cool, too. How Humans Survive in Space. Global hotspots, the Schlieffen Plan. That would be a pretty cool topic too. We live in dangerous times and it'll get worse. Thank you, Matt, for the ray of sunshine that you've brought to Origins yet again. I may stick my head in at the end of that just to say that. Thank you, Mr. Sunshine. In any case, let's pull up the exhibit. Let's take a break from the events. We'll get to the Dragoons organized events, but we'll talk about the sort of basic layout of the convention. So Origins happens at the, and we'll segue this into the, we will segue this into a conversation about dealers and the vendors room. So there's these huge convention rooms and a lot of small rooms at the Greater Columbus Convention Center where this is held. And everything kind of runs off this grand concourse that runs sort of the length of the convention center. At one end of the grand concourse, it kind of opens up onto Goodale Avenue, so you can get to the parking garage that's right across the street, or if you're staying at the Hampton Inn, that's also right across the street. At the opposite end, there are a series of escalators that take you up a level, and there's a skyway that takes you to the Hyatt Regency, which is also full at Origins. It full in terms of the rooms are all sold out, and it is filled with games. So we'll see about that in a minute. Now, I will tell you that generally speaking, there are exceptions to all of this, but generally speaking, the role-playing game stuff is on the Hyatt side. There are exceptions to that. And generally, everything else is on the convention center side. Origins has occasionally, in years past, bled over into additional attached hotels, but I don't think that will be the case this year. Vincenzo mentions Richard Berg gave the Ty Bomba the Oliver Stone Award. So interestingly, I assume that's a dig at Stone for Platoon, but that's based on. Oliver Stone has talked about what is fictionalized and what is not fictionalized in that movie, so he had a clear idea of that. So in sort of, I'm trying to orient my head now. So there's like a high street side of the convention center where all the what we call the pods are. There are these smaller wings. There's like 4 of them, maybe 5, that have all these little rooms off of them. And then there's an upstairs with a bunch of other little rooms. Okay. And like Chaosium tends to be up there, and some of the RPG stuff tends to be up there, the stuff that overflows out of the Hyatt. We've talked about Berg's review of games for anybody who doesn't know what Brog. Oh, this could be this. William Byrd might be right about this, because the JFK movie was a bunch. It's a really well-made movie, but it is bullshit. So the Little Mac Awards. I mean, Berg's review of games was totally worth everybody's time anyway. So yes, well, exactly. So Jim Garrison has a cameo. He's a judge in the movie. Interestingly, like I said, it's a really well-made movie. It's really well acted. Oliver Stone's a terrific director, but don't look at it as a history movie. Let me put it that way. I'm not telling you what to believe about the JFK assassination. Don't get me wrong. You do what you want, but don't base whatever it is you believe on the Oliver Stone film. Let's put it that way. Yep. So they should actually have started shipping, according to the announcement last. I should have mentioned this. MMP should have started shipping The Greatest Day Utah Beach today. My pre-order went in quite late, so I wouldn't expect to receive it until next week, which is good because I'll be gone for most of the rest of this week. So, it depends what you were there for, right? If you were there for for a taste of the authentic Richard Berg venom, then I think you would have loved Berg's review of games, right? So, I think so, but I think this was somebody that got one of the early copies. I think so. In any case, so the on the opposite side of the pods are all these huge ballrooms, which are kind of all connected. There's dividers, and the dividers might be up or they might be down, but they're kind of all connected. So that is then subdivided into the main gaming hall and the vendor hall. That's why I'm kind of leaving this here. So these are the vendors that Brandt has been kind enough to highlight as Wargame relevant. Maybe they're not all Wargame relevant, but some of them are Gary relevant. So thank you, Brandt, for including Chaosium and Studio 2. So Academy Games will be there. I'd be curious to see what the status on their Stellaris game is, because I could, in principle, be into that Stellaris game. It sounds quite neat. I suspect that they bit off more that they could chew with it, and that they are having trouble getting it to work and fulfill all the promises that they made, because it sounded super duper ambitious, but hopefully they're getting close. All right. Black Labrador Creations. Brant, remind me who that is. That is relevant. Black Oak Workshop. They make dice. They're also nice people. I would pay. I will not buy from them with a credit card again. I will pay cash, and they will give me the correct change, and we will not have the drama that we had last year or the year before. Carolina Game Tables makes game tables. They are very nice. They're not stylistically, in terms of the aesthetics of those tables, I don't like them as much as I do some other tables because of the really wide lip. I think they're a little less suitable for the kind of gamer that I am. But they're really nice tables. So, all right. It's been a while since I've seen it. I could. Mike Reed. Mike, thanks for coming by. Gem of its time before his personal troubles, a happier time. Yeah, Berg. Whatever your opinion of Berg personally, and people can believe what they want to believe, but he had a lot of shit going on. So was that why he was as caustic as he was? I doubt it, because he was caustic before all that stuff. But he did have a lot of stuff going on, and I feel like you got to feel for the guy. Brant points out they now have chairs. That's cool. Wormworks has chairs too. Wormwood has chairs too, but I don't like Wormwood because they're dicks. And they are also super expensive, and I do not need a game table made out of rare Brazilian scrotum wood that costs $30,000. I just don't. So I am not going to comment on what the Dice Tower is doing. I don't watch their videos very often because not because I'm like boycotting. I don't have time to boycott very many people at all. But because what they cover is not really in my zone, right? So you could buy a rather nice car, actually. You could buy a Tesla for what a Wormwood table costs. All right, so back on them. Catalyst Game Labs. Catalyst Game Labs is the people that currently do Shadowrun and Battletech, and I believe several other things. They will, if years past or anything go by, they will have a large and very prominent area in the dealer's hall. Jeff Beeler at Origins. So it depends on what the game is. But if you go and look at if you go to tabletop events, search for Armchair Dragoons. And you will get basically their whole thing, and you'll be able to see. You don't have to log in or anything. You'll be able to see how many slots are open for everything. A few things have sold out. I can tell you that. I mean, yes, it's nice, but I'm not paying $30,000 for a game table, and fuck you. So, anyway, Catalyst Game Labs, we've talked about them. Chaosium, they'll have Call of Cthulhu, and I do expect to see the new edition of Pendragon there. The Grey Knight campaign will also, if Pendragon is there, the Grey Knight campaign should also be there. Grey Knight was written by Larry DiTilio, who is no longer with us. Same fellow who wrote, or co-wrote at least, Masks of Nyarlathotep for Call of Cthulhu, and who was a senior story editor or something like that for Babylon 5. So there's that. Must have. David will have to chip in for you. You'll have to ask Osprey for your royalty check early, however. So this is not a joke. 5 figures is not an exaggeration at all. And we're not necessarily talking about low 5 figures either. I mean, if somebody's got the money to spend $30,000 on a game table, good for them. I don't. I made one out of plywood for $200. Thank you. It is nice. So, possibly, if he remembers, which he probably will not. Crystal Cast, they make dice. I actually don't like Crystal Cast dice. Some people do. That is a taste thing. Decision Games and Strategy and Tactics Press obviously will be there. I look forward to seeing and talking to Doc again. And I don't know if they'll have anything new, but if they do, it might be Drive on Stalingrad. They probably will have the new World at War magazine with campaigns in Europe in it. So they should have some interesting things. Enterprise Games is officially there representing GMT. So GMT doesn't have to drive shit out from California, which is, I think understandable why they don't feel like dealing with that. So campaign for Brazilian scrotum wood table. Unfortunately, I can't tell people to just, hey, go buy stuff from Noble Knight, and I get 10% in credit. So the chairs at the gaming tables are standard folding chairs for the most part. I mean, I assume we're talking about like on the show floor and not like the chairs from the Brazilian scrotum wood thrones you can buy from Wormwood for $18,000 a piece. So, Okay, so Enterprise Games, they will have a ton of GMT stuff. Basically, anything that GMT has in print, they will have. Maybe not in huge quantities, but they will have it. They will also almost certainly be bringing a discount table of whatever, and one can find a variety of cool things on that discount table. They'll have things like counter trays. They'll have a variety of out-of-print GMT product. So absolutely, if you're a wargamer and you don't stop at Enterprise Games, that is a huge mistake. Let's see here. Free League. Free League does the new Twilight 2000. They do the Aliens RPG. What else does Free League do? I have Twilight 2000 and the Aliens RPG and the One Ring RPG, actually. They are trying to remember who they inherited that from. So whoever was doing that before lost the license. It went to Free League, and they decided to just do a new edition of that game, which is good because that is a very good game. Notionally padded, yes. If you have an ass problem, bring your own seat cushion. I can tell you. Maybe. There you go. Yeah, no kidding. A built-in macerating toilet like Dan's. This is possible. This is possible. I won't have the energy to do that in all likelihood. All right, so Free League will be there. They have at least one thing for the Modifius is not going to be there, which is disappointing to me because I'd have bought something from them. Oh, that's true. Well, all their games are very similar. They also do Forbidden Lands. They have at least 15 different RPGs. Michael Simon, thanks for stopping by. This does not sound right to me. I'm happy to be corrected, but I this does not sound right to me. All right, Uva and Academy will be there. Yes, they're on this list right here. Cool. Brant says World of Game Design will be stocking stuff from Modifius, so you can buy it, but they're not on their own. That's fine. I think there's only one of the things about Modifius is I wish they did more support for some of their games. Some of their games, it feels like they don't support aggressively enough. That's not the case with the new Dune game, though. As far as I'm aware, there's never been Game Master rating at Origins in any official capacity or organized way in any case. So I think it is just word of mouth. Marty says, I'm holding out for the Planet of the Apes RPG. Maybe they'll have that. I don't think so. I think it's on Kickstarter right now. That strikes me as, and it's another one of these licensed things, like who really needed a G.I. Joe RPG, right? I mean, if somebody wants to run a G.I. Joe game, there's nothing wrong, or a Planet of the Apes game, or a Blade Runner, or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't feel I need to buy dedicated products for that, however. And I bought the Alien RPG thinking, there's something here I can use for Traveler, and there is. But then I'm like reading the history of the Alien universe in the Alien RPG, and, it's a licensed product, so they're getting the information from somewhere. So this might not be Free League's fault, but I'm reading the background on the Alien universe in the Alien RPG, and I'm saying to myself, this is fucking dumb. This is just dumb. No wonder Prometheus sucked. So, okay, yeah, Cubicle 7 sounds right. So yeah, that just didn't sound right. I kind of know Chris and Nicole from Green Ronin, so I'm slightly clued in on what they do. So I think there is a Barbie role-playing game. I mean, these are, I mean, and again, if this is somebody's dream game, do it. I'm cool with that. I'm like, who is there a market for this? I don't know. That's not clear to me. I mean, there was a WWE, whatever it was called at the time, role-playing game back in the day. There was an EverQuest role-playing game, which I want to say was done by, it might not have been done by White Wolf, but it was done by like Sword and Sorcery Press, which was an appendage of White Wolf, something like that. Michael Simon says the G.I. Joe RPG is awesome. Cool. That's cool. You could, so I don't want to sidetrack the Origins conversation with a comparison between the old Iron Crown MERP role-playing game and Free League's role-playing game, which I like. I think it's a very strong game. But I think there are reasons to prefer the old MERP game and the old MERP material over the Free League version. Maybe we'll do, when we get to doing a counter clipping special, which won't happen until after Origins. I almost did one last Wednesday, though. When we do that, maybe we'll talk about that. So that would be Middle-earth in tabletop role-playing games would be good. And, I like the movies, too. I like G.I. Joe as a kid. This is all fine. I love Blade Runner. It's a great movie. The first 2-3 Aliens movies are good. So, all right, John Strain, thanks for stopping by. I mean, I could probably do a 30-minute show of me reading Rollmaster and or MERP critical hit results, and it would be entertaining to watch. Let me put it that way. The Expanse was inspired by RPGs, but I think it was originally I'm thinking actually of Malazan Book of the Fallen was originally like a GURPS campaign. But yeah, the Expanse was originally like the whole setting was originally like an RPG thing. So there is a My Little Pony. So in any case, let's move along here. So Free League, Havoc Games LLC. I don't know who that is. I don't know who Mantic Games is. Sea Dog Games, Strange Machine. That name rings a bell. Ironwind Metals, however, they make miniatures. They're a miniatures company. I'm not sure where they're based. However, they own the old Ral Partha molds. So if you want the old Ral Partha miniatures, you can still get a lot of them through Ironwind Metals. It is worth, if you're after that, it is worth your time. I mean, you could make this claim about D&D, right? I mean, this is how D&D started as a miniatures game. It evolved out of Napoleonics, right? Until David Pope. It's not Dave McGarry. That's the dungeon guy. Dave, damn it. Mike Mandering Mike or somebody will throw which Dave, not Dave Arneson, decided he was going to do the Braunstein. And that's a role-playing game, man. And Chainmail too. Chainmail's, I don't know that Chainmail is skirmish scale. Is it? I don't know. We're not talking. Dave Wesley. Dave Wesley's the guy I'm talking about. This is the Braunstein guy. This is the guy who showed the key idea to Dave Arneson. And then Arneson showed it to Gygax. So I'm grossly oversimplifying all this. If you want to hear the chain of information idea custody, read John Peterson's book, Playing at the World. It is out of print, but I believe you can get it in an ebook, or you can wait a couple of months for the new edition. So, in any case, so James S.A. Corey, if you look at the Expanse books, they're credited to James S.A. Corey. That's not a real person. It's a pseudonym for two writers, Ty Frank, who's one of them. And Ty would do a lot of the after show shows when the show was on. The show was amazing. I loved that show. The books are really good too. Eventually I got to get caught up on the books. I am read up on the books to the point where the show stopped. Let me put it that way. And the other fella is Daniel Abraham. So, all right. So Mantic Games. All right. So Havoc Games is the one Jason Cawley is working with, and Mantic Games are the Kings of War people. Okay, Sea Dog Games, I'm not familiar with them. Strange Machine. Studio 2. So Studio 2 is like a print and production management company that handles printing and shipping and warehousing and all that stuff for a fairly huge number of different publishers of role-playing product, including Mongoose Publishing. So they will be there with a giant pile of Traveler stuff, and I will absolutely be buying something from them. I don't know what yet. I have to go through my list. Marty says there's a, yes, and this is true. Wes Chatham is the guy that plays Amos in the show, and he's great too. I love Amos in the show. I am always conflicted as to whether my favorite character from The Expanse is Amos or Avasarala. So All right, so Chris K, thanks for stopping by. Brant says that the Sea Dog games, people do the Swords and Sails games, which is a medieval 4X realm builder thing. That might be fun. I could see that. Chainmail was, yes, this is true. Was it, my only question about that was whether it was skirmish or not. I think so. But I've never played the original Chainmail, right? I was like 3 when it came out. So this is also correct. The White Box D&D combat basically evolved out of Chainmail, and there's not a huge evolutionary leap there either. You can watch The Expanse on Amazon Prime. So, all right. So the Dietz Foundation. So Jim Dietz is running a fairly interesting operation. He's a wargame publisher structured as a nonprofit. So you don't buy games from Dietz. You donate to Dietz, and then they have a variety of different charitable things that money goes to, and they hand you a game. So that's how that works. Jim's also a nice guy, and they're doing some interesting things that may be of interest to wargamers. All right, so TT Combat, no idea who that is. VR Games, VR Soft. These guys, I'm not sure that I realized they were in the vendor hall, because I think these people are the people that do the sort of the VR firefight games in one of the pods at the very end of the building. So this would be worth checking out, Jeff Beeler. I'll have to take a look at that. Daddy Rolled a 1 YouTube channel covering the early history of D&D. I mean, cool, but I've also read Playing at the World. So what I'm more interested in is the stuff that John Peterson did not cover because it is out of scope for what he was doing with Playing at the World. So Ben Riggs's book, Slaying the Dragon, is much more about now it's not written to the same level of scholarly rigor as Playing at the World. I've got it. Haven't finished it yet. But it's not written to the same level of scholarly vigor as Playing at the World is, but it covers the Lorraine Williams period of TSR, which John Peterson does not do. John Peterson also does not really talk. He mentions a number of other early RPGs in that book, but he doesn't really talk about them in detail. And that is something I am interested in, is how those other RPGs arose that from D&D, right? So... all right, so TT Combat makes MDF minis buildings. I've seen those people. They're actually, the buildings are actually quite nice. So, and they do a mech combat game like Battletech. Okay, cool. I think I knew that. And then Warlord Games does the Warlord Games stuff. So, so here's the gaming hall. Do we have, I see they put us in a corner, Brant. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Where's the boardroom? Or is that what we're just calling open gaming now? That's possible. So we've got special event tables in the front. Those are tables that somebody paid for. Brandon, thanks for stopping by. So it as Brant points out later, David, thanks for stopping by as well. As Brant points out, it really does depend on what you're looking for. There's a lot of board games, not war games, but board games. There are some war games, and we've pretty much covered the war games that are there. Will basically be Academy games, Decision Enterprise games. Technically, I can't remember now whether it's Free League or Modifius does have a war game or two. Dietz does some stuff that I would describe as war games. Warlord Games does some stuff I would describe as war games. And there's some miniature stuff there too. It's not an incredibly miniatures focused event, but there certainly is going to be plenty of miniatures there. Unless you're looking for like Games Workshop miniatures, in which case, I don't know what you'd want to find, but there'll be plenty of like fantasy miniatures and stuff like that. There's a significant RPG presence in that dealer's room. Wizards of the Coast isn't there, but somebody will be selling their stuff. Paizo's not there. However, you might check with you might go up to the Pathfinder. If you're interested in Paizo stuff, you might go up to the Pathfinder / Starfinder room, because they may be selling product up there. That has happened in some years past. I don't think I saw it happening last time. At least we'll be close to the bathroom. I suppose that's nice. Oh, this has been a long time. So Joe Green, so there's no Origins auction anymore. The reason for that is there is a ridiculous law in the state of Ohio that says you must be a licensed auctioneer to run an auction in Ohio. If you are not a licensed auctioneer and you run an auction, it is a felony and you will be in prison for 10 years. Have fun. Have a nice day. You cannot hire an auctioneer for less than many thousands of dollars. You cannot get an auctioneer's license without serving a multi-year apprenticeship under an existing auctioneer. It is fucking nonsense. So there is no Origins auction anymore. Gen Con still has an auction. So I have opinions about this because for a long, for several years, like the main thing I did at Origins was the auction. I loved the Origins auction. You would go in and see, all these weird games. And a lot of times the people, Joe Green mentions that Tom Wham was running Milwaukee in the 90s. I may have been at that Origins, but I'm not sure what my presence at the auction was like. Because I was at one of the Origins that where it was Origins and Gen Con. Is this tray done? This tray is done. And that must have been the one thinking about it. But you'd see Frank Metzner or Jim Ward and a bunch of other people who were like these old-time luminaries would be the auctioneers, right? You would just learn so much just sitting there. This tray is done, which means... No, this tray's not done. There's rather a lot of Americans left to clip, interestingly enough. This is exactly it. This is, they bought some auctioneers got together and bought some Ohio Congress people, and they passed the law, and that's that. Is there a reason? Now, I can understand why it would be important to have some oversight on like livestock or real estate auctions or something like that, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, hey, here's a copy of Dawn Patrol. Who wants to give me $5 for it? That's generally... Now, that said, at the end of that, a lot of money changes hands, and they did get robbed one year, so there's that. There is a math trade stuff. I don't really keep up with that. But this is organized on BGG, and the Origins people will get in trouble and possibly ejected if they catch you selling stuff, and you are not don't have a vendor badge or a vendor table. So, all right. So here's the gaming hall. Here's the pods, like I said, opposite that big hall. Let's hop over to. We don't need that. I put that in the chat earlier. Castle Risk. Oh, I fucking hated Castle Risk. I still have the pieces because I liked some of the little cute little castles with the tiny flags and stuff. Those were neat, but I actually hated Castle Risk. So, not really. Prior to this happening, usually several of the local game stores in Northeast Ohio would hold little auctions, and you'd talk 20, 25 people would show up or something like that, and you'd have several $100s total trade. The auctioneer for those was usually me. So it's not that hard to talk fast in that format. So, and Brad points out that was not a complete map of the pods. All right. So these are the Wargame HQ events. These are the ones that are organized by the Armchair Dragoons. Okay. So let me do this. So Maneuver Warfare. There's the Distant Plane Team Coin Game. There's the Air and Armor. We're going to call these demos. Those will be run by Bruce Maxwell. That's going to be great. I will warn you now that if you participate in those, you will leave and immediately order Air and Armor from Compass, because that is the kind of guy Bruce is. So, Arabian Struggle. I don't know what that is. Brazen Chariots. This is our event that I'll be helping to co-run with Lee Hanna. We will be doing 6 4-hour slots, and as usual for these things, you can show up for as much or as little of that as you like. We'd like you to be there for the whole slot, but you're not signing up for the whole weekend, right? John C. from the sunny Philippines, thanks for stopping by. You are signing up for a 4-hour slot. Also, we expect to have extra space, so if one of those, and a couple of them are sold out already, but if it's sold out, just show up. We'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Not every single event on this list is like that, but Brazen Chariots, we do not foresee it as being likely that we will not be able to fit people in. We'll be able to fit people in. Brant points out that Maneuver Warfare is the deck builder. I'm sorry, it's hashtag Maneuver Warfare, Brant. Was the game that was designed by USM Major. Okay, Arabian Struggle, oh, very good. Catastrophe Games, 3-player irregular warfare game in Arabia. Multiple sessions of Air and Armor. Yeah, I expect Air and Armor to sell out very fast. Just now, Compass will reprint it, so bear that in mind. But I expect Air and Armor to sell out like that. And part of that's because I think it's going to be a really strong game. Part of it is that if anybody talks to Bruce or listens to Bruce talk about the game, they will immediately want to buy it because Bruce is very, very, very passionate about the games that he's designing. But NATO was like that, and I mean, we bought it and played it immediately, and it's just like, this is terrific. So it's all good. Campaign Bagration, that is a miniatures event, is it not, Brant? I believe that is the Napoleonic miniatures game. Campaign Fall Blau, same deal. Oh yeah, Fred Schwartz, developer, will be there as well. I'm not sure I've met Fred. But I've met Bruce and talked to Bruce, and Bruce is great. So, all right, Marines. Okay, that makes sense. I wasn't sure who USM was. United States Men. I don't know. Yeah, I'd be shocked if there weren't follow-ups to Air and Armor. Let me put it that way. They already rebranded it Air and Armor Würzburg. So I would be surprised. Oh, Bagration and Fall Blau. These are the historical game company. I can picture the box in my head, but I'm not sure who the publisher is. But I know they're printed through Blue Panther. I could tell you that. Here's campaigns in Europe. So this is interesting, and it is germane to our good friend, War in Europe. So for some years, there's been a project on the back burner at Decision to kind of break War in Europe up into a series of modular games that can be played independently. And Campaigns in Europe will be the first of those to release in World at War magazine. So I will be very interested to see this. I will absolutely grab this. I'm very interested in seeing it. Let me put it that way. And I believe it is a Joe Miranda design. There you go. Catastrophe games. There you go. I got a lot to look at here, Brant. Bear that in mind. All right. So as we're hearing in the chat here, Air and Armor, 5th Corps and BAOR is on the horizon, and these will be a set of rules that cover multiple conflicts. So cool. Yeah, and there's multiple. I'd be shocked if this didn't have a long and healthy life. Let me put it that way. Okay, so we're going to talk about the command post exercises and the Kriegspiels. Now, Kriegspiels are going to be farther down on the list. These are not the same thing, but they are both like, and if you're there, that's a good point. I'm sure none of this is friggin' secret. Bruce will tell you what he's working on. So just go talk to Bruce, and Bruce will be giving a seminar as well. So you can just ask your questions there. Vincenzo says that 5th Corps is finished and will be out in early 2025. So there you go. So the command post exercises is based on, I mean, it's dumbed down for the civies, but it's based on actual U.S. Army War College type of exercises that are done as training tools for the actual military. Okay. They are, again, it's not quite run the same way. And Brad, I'm sure, will have something to say about it. I'll get to that as soon as I get done with the speech here, Stacking Limit. Thank you for the reminder. It's very valuable for a wargamer to participate in this. You'll learn stuff about information and how operations are organized and managed and things like that. You will find it valuable. You may or may not elect to participate in future events of this type, but you will gain something by participating in this or the Kriegspiel or the national security decision-making game. And I highly recommend doing so. For any war gamer, I think you should do it. They are all, to greater or lesser extent, to some extent, LARPs for wargamers, right? The one that feels the most like that is the NSDM, I think. But the command post exercise feels like it a little bit as well. So I think this might be the case, actually. All right, and there's a whole bunch of command post exercise events here, so you have a choice of what your investment footprint is going to look like. So, all right, so I'm actually not behind on the chat, shockingly enough, but it is about time to hear from our good friends at Noble Knight Games. So let me find the ad, and I will hand it off to Noble Knight. So thank you, Noble Knight. And I got it. There we go. There we go. There we go.
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more. Going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at. Complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world. Just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.
All right, folks, we got 200 people watching here across all platforms. So for anybody who's new here to the show, welcome aboard. Usually the show's a little more structured than we are tonight, but I wanted a looser show so I didn't have to prep for tonight. So as you can have told if you were here first thing. So thanks to Noble Knight, the official sponsor of the Counterclipping Show. There is a campaign going on right now where we're working towards, in form of store credit, a copy of the Winter War Trilogy, or the Finnish Trilogy Volume 3. So you can help the channel out by using the Noble Knight affiliate link in the video description. In addition, if you haven't already, please do thumbs up the video and subscribe to the channel if you are not already subscribed. We are here every night at Monday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So once again, thanks to Noble Knight. And back to the Wargame HQ events. So next up is Crisis in Korea. I'm not sure I remember what. Patty, thank you very much. And welcome back to the show, by the way. All right, so Crisis in Korea. Brant can put some details in there if he likes. I can tell you what Dash to Dog of Pills is, or Dog of Pills. I don't know how to correctly pronounce that Russian name. Or I'm not actually sure it's Russian. It might be Estonian, Latvian, or Lithuanian, or something like that. That is the 10K Games guys. They are doing a large footprint monster game called Symphony of Destruction, which is the Army Group North Sector from 1941 to 1945. It is a very ambitious game. They will be showing it off at Origins. None of their stuff is final yet, but we also have an interview with them coming up, which is going to be post-Origins at this point. So, Drive on Stalingrad. This is a redo. So this is a demo from the folks at Decision. This is the more recent Thai Bomba Drive on Stalingrad rather than the old SPI Drive on Stalingrad. So bear that in mind, but that will be coming back out in a deluxe edition with a mounted map, and I assume it's a mounted map. Actually, I guess I don't know that for sure, but they're calling it a deluxe edition, so I'm taking that as being mounted. And their deluxe editions are real nice. So if you like that game, Bob's your uncle here. Joe Hammond, thanks for stopping by. Empire of the Sun, Mark Herman's legendary classic, possibly the best game on the War in the Pacific ever designed. There'll be 2 slots of that. Halls of Montezuma. I don't know if we're calling this a demo or an interactive session or what, but that is the upcoming game from Fort Circle. It's kind of the companion. It's about what you think it is about. It's about the Marines in the Mexican War. And it's sort of a companion game, but not really particularly similar, as far as I can tell, to Shores of Tripoli. It was made with the permission or encouragement of the Marine Corps or something like that. I will let Kevin Bertram, the publisher, speak to that. We got a demo of Hunt for Blackbeard. That's Volko Ruhnke's new game that we talked to Volko a couple of weeks ago. That is on Kickstarter right now, so that's worth a look if you have not looked at it already. Whoops. There's the two Kriegspiel slots. So again, Kriegspiel, we've already talked about this. It's different from the command post exercise, but it is illuminating in a similar way, and I highly recommend that people do this. NATO: The Cold War Goes Hot. I have already talked about this. This is Bruce Maxwell's game. It is friggin' terrific. It's got too many virtues to list. I believe it is available again from Compass after having sold out at least once and maybe twice. There are several events of Nevsky. If I have time, I might participate in one of these, actually, because I have it. I'd like to play. I'm interested in the topic. I'd like to play it. I haven't had a chance. There's also, I think, what we're calling demos of Night Witches. It probably David will be running these. It might be Kevin, too. So this is the David Thompson / Liz Davidson designed game about the Soviet bomber wings with female pilots in World War II. I have observed a game of this. It's pretty neat. It is a bag draw mechanic. It is solitaire / co-op. It's solitaire, but it's like trivial to co-op it. So it's quite neat, and I will be looking forward to pecking up a copy when it is available. One of our Columbus people will be running Normandy 44 in celebration of the 80th anniversary of D-Day, so that is worth your time to check out. Did I say Normandy 44? Normandy 44 might be, depends when you ask me, but it's one of the two games that tends to be at the top of my list of Simnich operational games, meaning that Zachman series. It's either that or Holland 44. I like both of them very much. All right. Next up is Pico Armor Panzerblitz. This is neat. Now, I got to tell you this. I'm not a miniatures guy, so I can't go there or I'll start, I'll have hay fever symptoms. But it's pretty neat. So, and it's Panzerblitz played with Pico armor, right? So it's not quite as allergenic as a strict miniatures game would be. Jason W says Night Witches is great. Playtested the entire campaign last December. Yeah, it's slick. I'm impressed with it. Quatre Bar for Charge. This is more Napoleonics miniatures. Brant has no idea what is going on here. There are Napoleonic miniatures being played at his table. But that looks pretty fun. Solder City is from Catastrophe Games, unless I'm very much mistaken. That is an in-development thing, I think. So there's Shakespeare's First Folio. I don't know a lot about this, but what I can tell you is it is in the pipeline from Fort Circle. All right, so we are done with all of the counters except the huge number of American air units. Huge. I may have to bust out a second tray to put away all these air units. There's a lot. This will keep me busy for the remaining 43 minutes. But the entire game is, that's not true. The British infantry aren't clipped either. But there's not as many of those. There's a lot of these American air units. Not as many as there are Soviet rifle divisions, but there's a lot. All right. So Shove to Shavli, July 1944. I believe this is the 10K Games team as well. So basically what they're doing is showing off two scenario sets from their game, because usually when you see a game about Barbarossa, it covers Barbarossa, right? Or it ends, if it's a Army Group North type of topic, it ends when the siege of Leningrad starts or ends. This covers the entire sector for the entire war, so it's super ambitious. They're doing a ton of research on it. I look forward to seeing what they come up with. So Song for War, the Song for War folks will be back. They're doing a couple, they've made some changes. So for those who had a chance to try Song for War, it's pretty neat. I think part of the problem is it kept getting pitched as like Axis and Allies, and I don't think it's all that similar to Axis. I mean, very broadly it is, but I don't think it plays very similarly to Axis and Allies. I think it's considerably more interesting than Axis and Allies for me. And it's World War II in the Med. It's worth a look, and I think they're breaking it into a couple of different games. I think that's the plan. Space Empires 4X will be returning. This is a fantastic game that I would be happy to play if I had time, and I don't. True Command. I have played this. I played this when Tim Densham, the designer, I think he's the designer. If he's not, he's the publisher, was running demos of it last year. It's pretty neat. Crisis in Korea is a pair of Sebastian Bay mini games. So that's worth a look. Published by Catastrophe. Votes for Women, Play with the Designer. So it sounds like Tori Brown's going to be there. Tori's great. I got to meet her last year. It was great. We Are Coming Nineveh, one of the most highly acclaimed games to come out last year. He's the angriest man in wargaming, folks. He's not laying down for this. We Are Coming Nineveh. I'd like to try that personally, actually. And that's it. That's the whole list. So, but we also have the Dragoons organized War College events. And I'll let Brant clarify the working relationship here between the War College and the Armchair Dragoons. They are not the same organization. They're not run by the same people, but there's some degree of cooperation. So we got Guilford Courthouse. Oh, we didn't put the people running the things on this one. Fight Like the Pros, Wargame Doctrine, Battle of Gazala. That should be intriguing. Company update for Academy Games. Conflict update on Ukraine. Wargame Designer panel with Kevin Bertram, Tim Densham, Jason Matthews, and Jim Werbenow. That's great. So I may be able to get you a ticket for that one, folks. Franco-American relations in World War II. That should be interesting. It'd be also interesting to hear Franco-British relations in World War II, because that was not cozy at all. So Godzilla versus Stalingrad would have gone better for the Germans had Godzilla been on their side. All right. Aircraft carriers in space. That's got to be Chris Wolf, that's got to be Chris. The Incheon Landings, company updates from Fort Circle and the Dietz Foundation. Games and Sims for Training and Learning with Brant, Jim Starrett, Brown. Are we talking about Tori Brown here? And Chris Wolf. Twilight Struggle franchise, and Andy Gupta and Jason Matthews will be there. The Twilight Struggle will be inducted into the Academy of Adventure Gaming Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame. So I think and there'll be a big Twilight Struggle tournament too. So, company update from Decision, a doc will be doing a company presentation from GMT. Nobody knows what that'll be yet. Company update from Catastrophe Games. Here's a thing about U.S. tank destroyers in World War II. At some point, you know what? I'm going to home in on this. At some point, I think. So other people have said something along these lines. HUN 644. A lot of times there'll be two games set up on the same table, so that it could be that simple depending on the game. This is or like Jews in Space from History of the World Part 1. That's possible. No, they're still sore about that. Yep, they are. So, there you go. Conflict update on Ukraine is Bruce Maxwell. Very good. Oh, so there is no Twilight Struggle tournament. Well, there was talk of one. Anyway, what happened? What I'm about to say will touch on this topic. Okay. We'll pull this down for a minute. All right. So I think we can all agree, regardless of our opinion of their games, that the industry leader in our hobby, I hate using the term industry, but because it implies that we're more organized and professional than I think we are. But the publisher occupying the publisher leadership position is GMT. They have, of the wargame publishers that do things like Hex and Counter wargames, the kinds of things I like to play, they are closest to a crossover audience. They are bringing in the most new people with a variety of games. Thank you, John Longshore. Much appreciated. They are bringing in a variety of new people with a variety of games, and not all their attempts to stretch the boundaries of the audience have been successful. See, Wizard, whatever that Wizard thing was, as an example. I still appreciate what they are doing. They are the industry leader. However, at some point, the industry leaders got to come out of the friggin' closet and start making appearances at public-facing conventions again, okay? Right now, they have their own weekend at the warehouse, and I get that they do not feel like trucking their inventory from California, Central Valley, to Columbus, Ohio. So what I am saying is not necessarily that they should be vending at Origins again. I understand the logistical and financial challenges that would represent. I think the reality of working with enterprise games, to give them representation on the show floor, I think is fine. I think we could expand that relationship. We could work on that, but they really need to send some people out to Origins basically every year. They need. I know that they don't want to do that. There are reasons that I am not necessarily privy to, so I don't want to talk about it because I don't have all the information. But they got to get over it. They're the industry leader. They need to be doing things at events that people who aren't already their customers go to. The people at the weekend at the warehouse are great, but they're already their customers. They're not growing the audience, their audience or the hobby's audience by doing weekend at the warehouse or GMT East or whatever. They're not closed in the sense that you're not allowed in unless you show your GMT membership card. But they're not really public-facing conventions. You're not going to show any of your product to anybody new at those events or at Consim World Expo or at WBC. You got to go to the big, more open, more general conventions like GMT, like Origins or Gen Con. Origins, I think, is a slightly better fit and probably cheaper, although it's a little farther away. So I think GMT is the market leader, but they are displaying a lack of leadership vision by not making appearances at Origins. That is what I'm telling you. They do a PresCon. How big is PresCon? It's a large regional convention, as I recall. They like vend at Pres. What do they do at PresCon? Because isn't that in like North Carolina? Where is that? Am I misremembering that? It does leave the opportunities for others, but the others aren't. And again, I'm not suggesting that GMT has to have a huge booth at Origins. I think for vendor hall representation, I think the arrangement with Enterprise Games works out fine. What I'm saying is that they need to actually get a couple of designers and somebody who's a company rep to go out there and give talks and run demos and things like that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not talking, it's in Virginia. So then they do vend there. I mean, they vend at WBC as well. So, but I mean, a presence in the dealer's hall, that's fine. But if they want to share that responsibility with Enterprise Games, everybody's cool with that. That's not what I'm saying. It'd be nice if they had a GMT booth, but it would be just as nice if they had, we're making progress on this, right? So, Wizards doesn't really have a game room presence at Origins anymore. That's being run by a separate organization. So for those who don't know, there's a third floor ballroom above the big bar on 2 in the Hyatt, and that's where the D&D happens. I forget the name of the organizing group that organizes it. It is not Wizards of the Coast. I can tell you that. MMP has been MMP at Origins. I'm not sure. The gamers were at Origins. I remember that. Compass doesn't come to Origins, and I don't think Compass wants to come to Origins. As much as I would, again, though, I think the dealer room tables are expensive. Okay, there's nobody's arguing with this. The dealer room tables are quite expensive. So I'm going to say I completely get it if, say, the major players in our hobby Decision's there. Decision's doing the work, right? And they've been carrying the load for like the better part of 15 years now. So, hey, hi, McKenna. Hopefully she will be available during the event. No. I mean, this is. I don't buy this argument, right? The war game publishers left. So the statement that, so Origins and Gen Con are RPG first. I don't think that's true of Origins. I think it's board games first. But RPGs are very close. The war game publishers gave up the ground, right? They decided they weren't going to be there anymore. And I'm talking about the people that I've mentioned, right? There are still some there. Decision's still there. Academy Games does war games. They're still there. There's a couple of other companies. But they're letting the public face of the hobby be the companies that do Academy Games type of games, or Doc, who is, maybe not the most approachable. I mean, I like Doc, don't get me wrong, but he's not the most approachable fella in the room, okay? So this is exactly right. I mean, it's certainly true that to say that the focus of the event has shifted away from war games, and I don't think anybody is trying to make a case that Origins should return to being a war game, like 80+% war games event. That's not where we are, right? The event is what it is. It is no longer being run by a collaboration between Avalon Hill and SPI. It is being run by Gamma, however that happened. So it has to represent everybody that Gamma represents, right? But war game publishers are in there too. I'm pretty sure. So I'm not sure what Jason Matthews' actual. So Jason Matthews is on the board of Gamma, or he's in one of the board slots of Gamma. But I don't think he's there as a representative of GMT. I think he's just there as a designer. So I don't I remember Clash of Arms being there. I don't explicitly remember MMP, but it could be that they were there with the gamers. So I mean, this is kind of where I'm going with this, right? I mean, if wargamers, I'm going to use the obvious metaphor here. If this is a battle that wargamers would like to fight, then the wargamers have to show, the wargamers and the wargame publishers and the wargame people have to show up at these things to have the fight. The fight is not going to happen, and you will continue to be ignored and ghettoized if you are not there because you have already ceded the ground. You would probably be quite surprised at the number of Europa Fest people that came up to us 2 or 3 years ago, or whenever that was, when we were playing Second Front on the big floor, who said, yeah, it's awesome to see this here again. We thought this was gone, right? And we're just two random dudes running Second Front on a table. You put a designer up there. I'm not endorsing Europa either here, right? So, but I remember Clash of Arms being there. I remember a number of other publishers being there. I mean, they could use this, yeah, but I mean, again, I think it'd be better to put somebody in that booth, right? I don't know if Jason Carr, who will be at Origins, and he's like working with GMT. He's not working with GMT. He is working for GMT. He will be there, but I don't know what Jason Carr's itinerary is either. They should have somebody in that Enterprise Games booth helping out, talk to people about the games and all that other stuff, right? I'm not necessarily, again, suggesting that they need to have a booth in the dealer's hall. They have that covered. Somebody like Compass or MMP or somebody like that, what I would suggest is that they come up with a similar partnership with a retailer to, help them out paying for the booth, but so they don't have to, neither party has to eat it all. And then just make sure they have plenty of product on hand, and then maybe send somebody to represent them as a publisher there. And yeah, they can give a talk or two like that, but they can also hobnob in the booth, right? I'm always a little saddened when you see this every year when you walk past a booth and it's somebody's passion project, some RPG or board game or whatever that they've done, and there is love in their project, and it's sitting there on a table, and there's a person sitting behind the table looking at their phone, not engaging with anybody. Now, there's at least VUCA has the excuse for being in Germany. They should be. I mean, I would encourage them to try and work something out too. And again, I'm not necessarily suggesting that they need a giant footprint of dealers hall. Columbia used to be, that's a good point. Columbia used to be at Origins too, for years and years and years. And they're not strictly war games. They have a substantial RPG line. I mean, yes, this is true. And I'm aware of the logistical difficulties. You'd have to fly somebody out and put them up and all that other stuff. Yeah, and this is exactly right. And you know what? You've got to get dealer's hall space, then you have to think of, because it's expensive. It's like a couple of grand per table. And somebody like GMT would need at least 4 tables or something like that. So you're looking at an investment of something like 10 or 12 grand to go. Are you going to sell that much product? Possibly not. But what you can do is spend $1,500 to send 2 people out to press the flesh at the convention and maybe run some demos or something like that. That is what I am suggesting for, say, GMT. And yes, I'm aware that it's easier for me to say living as close to Columbus as I do. I mean, I used to be able to walk there from work. Brant says that in 2005, there was MMP, Columbia, Avalanche, GMT, Matrix Games, who shouldn't count, Clash of Arms, Against the Odds, plus Crazy Igor, who had a lot of Wargame stuff, and Zaki, who had always had a fair amount of Wargame stuff, and who was there until just the last couple of years when he had a medical problem at Gen Con. I mean, yeah, I agree, but they, I'm criticizing this lack of vision. Well, Mike, you're not wrong, right? But it's not like there's no historical gaming presence there. It's not like there's no wargaming presence there. And in fact, I think you could probably make the case that there's maybe more wargamers there than there might be at PresCon. As I recall, I don't forget the actual number, but as I recall, PresCon draws like 1,500 or 2,000 people or something like that. So it's pretty big. But it's PresCon, right? So Firkin, as far as I know, I talked to Grant about this, actually. I think Firkin is still around, but I think he's retired. Or Columbia might be back at some point. That's possible. James, who is more or less the marketing fella from Columbia, lives near Pittsburgh, so it's fairly drivable for them. Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I'd forgotten about this. Matrix Games was starting to publish the Lock and Load War Games before Mark Walker left. So I'm pretty sure 2007. I think I don't remember this. I probably do remember this, to be honest. So, and Brant mentions that as vendors, or as at least with representation on the shop floor, they've seen Grognard Sims. When were they there? Lost Battalion, who I remember. Lock and Load, who I remember. Flying Pig, who I remember. Proving Ground, I think I remember. Blue Panther, sure. Catastrophe is part of that. 1A Games, LPS, Columbia, GMT. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, Brant's been doing this for a long time, too. So, apparently not as long as me, but he paid a little closer attention to the Wargame footprint at Origins because I was only giving that my partial attention for a long time. So the what I'm trying to say here is that there's an opportunity that is not being taken up. That doesn't necessarily mean there are other ways to interface with a big convention like this other than having space in the dealer's room, right? So, and it's actually that I'm suggesting rather than them having space. And now we're back to GMT specifically. It's them that I'm suggesting that because they already have a perfectly amicable arrangement with Enterprise Games, and that's working out great. Enterprise Games gets cleaned out every year, right? All right. Achilles, this is a great one-sentence way of putting that entire 15-minute rant that I just had. But I don't know, it was 15 minutes. But Vincenzo says, First Origins was Baltimore 91. Covered everything, including computer games. Computer games have been kind of in and out of Origins. There's never been like a major presence there. There's usually a video game room, which is literally a huge room with a couple of tables and a couple of consoles set up. And then the Battletech pods when they're there. So there has not been a significant computer gaming presence, what I would describe as a significant computer gaming presence at Origins in a long time. So, and yeah, that would not in fact fly today. In 91, even that's a little well, 91, that's 35 years ago. So yeah, nobody would have noticed at the time. But Origins was a different, I mean, even into the 2000, even like 2005. I mean, I think by that time the Europa Fest was still there, right? That was an entire room where they played Europa, right? So there's been a significant complexion change in Origins, especially in the last 20 years. So, Slytherin. That's cool. I mean, that's cool. I think that's great. Shit, I think the Slytherin ought to get a booth and show up. They're swimming in money, right? So, well, I mean, again, Strategicon, I don't know how big Strategicon is either. And it's good, but again, how effective is that event in getting the word out that, hey, here we are, and we make some awesome games, right? So I'm trying to, let's see here. And Slytherin does make some good games. I feel like my complaint with Slytherin is not that they don't make great games. It's that they've been making great games for like over 20 years, and they still want AAA new game prices for their stuff from 20 years ago. That's ridiculous. So Blue Panther will not be, correct me if I'm wrong, Brant, Blue Panther will not be at Origins this year. I would expect to see a little bit of Blue Panther product maybe with Enterprise games. So, I think Steve from Blue Panther is just kind of trying to figure out what works for him, and they couldn't figure that out for this year. So, it's not necessarily an easy problem, right? So we do, actually. We do. And the Gary Graysby games are shockingly similar to Campaign for North Africa. At least the last couple, War in the East 2 and War in the West. War in the East 2 might be on sale on fanatical.com right now for as good a price as it has been seen. So, I mean, this will happen. This happened to me with Distant Worlds 2, whatever the new one's called. I refunded it. It was just not running. I mean, it was crashing all the time. It was incredibly sluggish. I refunded it. I mean, I'll look at it again at some point. I'm excited to play the game. It's right up my alley. But I was not about to deal with it. But Slytherin and Matrix aren't necessarily the developers of all the games that they do. They are the sort of clearinghouse and publisher for a lot of games. So while John is quite right here, it's not necessarily Slytherin / Matrix's fault. They are just the folks left holding the metaphorical bag. There we go. Discount giveaway codes for a bunch of free Slytherin games. There we go. That they'll be giving out at Origin. So, and there's definitely some stuff at Slytherin and Matrix that are worthwhile. Can't really recommend Computer World in Flames, though. It's kind of bullshit. So, I'd have to think closely about this. Mike is pointing out that Blue Panther is now a publisher in its own right. They've done a couple of things, and they're a printer, manufacturer, and distributor, printer and manufacturer at least, for other game publishers. I'm not sure this is a real conflict of interest. I'm not 100% sure that it isn't. But I've heard this. I should check it out. I just don't want to spend the money. It's like $30 right now or something like that on fanatical.com. I just don't want to spend the money right now, right on top of Origin. It's terrible timing. So I have heard that it is greatly improved. And like I said, it's right up my alley. I'll get to it at some point. Eric Goebel, thank you so much for the support. It is much appreciated. Sea Lion map, excellent. Is that the new Decision Sea Lion? As I've got that, it looks pretty. It's alternate history, right? But it looks pretty sharp. So thank you for the support. It is much appreciated. It's a faithful port of it's a faithful port of an old version of the game, the final edition. And it doesn't have an AI, so you're playing it hot seat. You think that's a good idea? I don't think that's a good idea. So, Jonathan Dyer, thank you so much. Have a great night, and we'll see you again soon. This is true. Blue Panther, Legion, Revolution Games, Columbia Games, whatever. Yeah, I mean, these folks are easy to work with. And the other thing is that your dealer's area. So when I say dealer's area, and this is not something that I think GMT would necessarily be a good fit for. When I say dealer's area, I mean tables that you having paid for the tables are authorized to sell product at. You don't necessarily have to have those in the vendor hall anymore. There are a number of people vending in the game hall as well. Now, what kind of special arrangement has to happen to make that work with Gamma? I don't know. Brant probably does. So, okay, so that's a little different. I would agree with that. I would have a concern there. I don't know that I've heard Steve talk about that. I think Steve's idea is that everybody's going to be printing through him soon. And he's, not wrong. So, there you go. So, apparently it's still super. I did pick it up because I like War of Flames, but, I'm unwilling to deal with it except as an interesting exercise. So there we go. So Warlord Games is not in the exhibit hall, but they will be selling stuff in their event space. So when we look at that big map, do I still have this up? Nope, I don't. Oh, well. If you look at that big map, there'll be some of those tables will be like special event tables. Those are the publishers that have paid for tables. Most of those publishers will be selling product at those tables in that area, those areas as well. So, no, they did not. They don't, unfortunately. They had a silent auction / flea market type of thing, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. That sounds approximately correct. But no, they don't anymore. I wish they did. I mean, that was better than nothing. At least you could, maybe find some deals on something. And in fact, like convention deals is kind of a thing of the past in a lot of ways. That said, the Goodman Games, I'm not sure if it was Goodman Games vending or not, but one of the RPG publishers was selling like a lot of like Goodman Games and some other like third-party D&D stuff last year and the year before for very deep discounts. So it's worth looking around, but it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for war games, you're probably not going to get a deal. Unfortunately, I mean, it's not like you're going to get a deal from Luzaki or Crazy Igor either. So there's that. Now, as Brant pointed out, though, there is the math trade, and I think there might be some kind of flea market thing getting arranged on BGG as well. So that's worth a look. I have not looked at those things. All right, so we got about 15 minutes left. So I guess I'll wrap up with some just basic convention information for those who don't already know. There are three kind of four hotels attached to the convention center. The one that's been there forever is the Hyatt Regency. Okay, that's the one that's up the escalators and down the hall. If you then go back downstairs to the food court, attached to which is in the ground floor of the Hyatt, attached to the food court is the Drury Inn and Suites. So let me highlight this, Brant. Thank you. So Brant, thanks for the support. Much appreciated. You could have just handed me $5 at Origins. That would have been fine. Because I'll see you like literally the day after tomorrow. But connection with the retail, anybody's got a connection with a retailer that could be connected to Compass or MMP, reach out to Brant. I'll be happy to facilitate that connection should that be helpful at all, right? And my email's in the ticker, ardwulfslair@gmail.com. Mr. Mark Herman, thanks for stopping by. Mark, we went over the events already. We do have some Empire of the Sun games happening, so that is awesome. So I am not running them. I am running BCS though, so it kind of counts. But yeah, if anybody like knows a retailer that they think would be a good fit, meaning probably a retailer that sells a fair amount of MMP product or Compass product or Legion War Games or Renegade, not Renegade. I think they'll actually, is Renegade Games at there? Oh, Brant, I didn't see them on the list. But somebody that sells a lot of Worthington or, whoever, maybe a connection can be made, right? Where you could get a couple of groups together to collaborate, a publisher and a retailer to collaborate, split the booth cost, and make it reasonable, right? So, Jeff Beeler says in 2002, GRD came down from Michigan to run a Europa demo. No separate Europa Fest. I mean, I don't know I could find out. I don't know exactly when Europa Fest went away, but I'm pretty confident it was later than 2002. It's possible I'm wrong. I'll actually inquire, because it will. I'll be seeing those folks in 2 days as well. So yeah, Mark, we'll definitely capture some pictures of that. So the other hotel that's probably most convenient is the Hampton Inn, and it's kind of a diagonally across the street from the far northern corner of the convention center, but that is the closer corner to where the big gaming hall is. So the Hampton Inn also has free breakfast, unlike the Hyatt. But the other two hotels that are attached to the convention center, there's a Hilton across the street. And you remember I mentioned the walkway that connects the convention center and the Hyatt? There's now another Hilton attached to that walkway. So there's two Hiltons within literally 500 feet of each other. I'm not sure how that's working out for Hilton, but there's that. Okay, Renegade will have people there, but I mean they've got product. I don't understand. Origins was where I first met Dean as well. I'm not sure what year, but because like I said, I've only missed since 1995. I've only missed it twice. So, and chances are pretty good that, because I've looked at some pictures and looked at the years on those pictures and said, I know I was there this year. I know I went to talk to GMT and bought stuff from GMT. I probably met both Mark and Richard Berg during those times. I just didn't know who they were to look at them. So this would be a fantastic idea, actually. A Pacific War Fest would be. It's crowded. It is crowded, especially in that big game hall. So excellent. That's awesome. So this was what I was choking over, actually. That's awesome. That Empire of the Sun got played at Circle DC. Circle DC sounds like a great small event as well. I'll be curious. I can ask Kevin, because he's the organizer, Kevin Bertram, that is, how many people showed up at that thing. But I thought it was something like 100 people or something like that. Maybe it was a little less. So, okay, this makes complete sense. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how. All right, so if you know where the complete strategist is, you will be baffled as to how a game store can continue to pay the rent at the location they're at in Manhattan. So, so there's that. Oh yeah, Arthur. I'm sure Arthur's another one I'm sure I have met, actually. I just didn't know what he looked like. I still don't know what he looks like. So, and I think Crazy Igor retired. Everybody knew what Igor looked like. Yeah, this is great. Actually, how would I? Oh, I mean, really? I'm not sure how they're managing that either. That does make sense, but I'm not sure how they're managing that either. Unless they bought the building in like 1980 or something like that, which I guess isn't impossible. But if that's the case, that would explain a lot, because that explains how they can have the space, and I assume they're not the only business in the space, and they could probably rent the rest of it out for what kind of bananas money. The Strand bookstore. Yeah, no kidding. This is a legendary New York City bookstore. I didn't go to either of these places when I was in New York City. What a dumbass. We went to Mood, though, which is where the Project Runway people buy their fabric. So, and it was neat. I got to tell you, Mood was neat. If you're into fabric stores, that's like Valhalla of fabric stores. But I really wish, last time I was there, we were only there for a day. But so there's that. But I would have loved to have stopped at the Complete Strategist and the Strand. I would fear for the safety of my wallet at either establishment, to be frank. Mark, will do. I will absolutely let you know next time I'm in New York City. I have no immediate plans to go back to New York City, however. So, the Complete Strategist. So I think there's still multiple locations of Complete Strategist. The one in King of Prussia, PA, might still be open. I know a couple of the locations have closed, however, but the one in Manhattan is still there. So, and there's a big New York City Wargaming club too. So, I mean, it's not like there's no Wargaming in New York City. That's not true. There's Wargaming happening down there. So, I've heard this story, of course, but this is hilarious. Obviously, you got to give better sounded talks, or at least have a better pitch for the talks. I was there with my wife. Okay, that's all I'm saying. It's not like that's the only thing we did, but the point is, we did not go to the Complete Strategist or the Strand. So there's that. All right, so tomorrow I got a little surprise. Well, I don't want to spoil the exact date. Release of the winners of the Charles S. Roberts Awards for awards year 2023. Sorry, 2003 would be late. Are imminent. They will be happening soon, very soon. In fact, we may have a conversation about that topic on next week's show. So there's that. I'd love to go to Forbidden Planet too, actually. To be fair, James Conway, thanks for stopping by. So. All right, so we got a show with Dan tomorrow. I don't know if we got a guest or not. I know Dan's working on it. Well, I haven't received an email about it, and since we started the show, so but we'll be on with Dan tomorrow night, and there will be again shorts all week. I kind of wanted to talk about the shorts, so I guess we're not going to do that tonight. So I made all those shorts for TikTok. Oh, that sucks. Well, thanks for ruining it, James. I appreciate it. So, all right. Yeah, there'll be some live content. I got to talk to Brand about what this streaming arrangement is. I'll probably have some content from Origins too. What exactly I do will highly depend on exactly how bad the bandwidth is. So we will see how well that works out. Minimally, there will be some shorts, and hopefully we'll do some longer format stuff. And I can always record. And I'll have the complete portable studio with me. I can always record and post stuff once I get home. So you will be seeing for most of the next week and a half Origins material from me. And it's safe to assume there will be a loot video as well. That loot video might include more RPG stuff than Wargame stuff, but we'll see. So, all right. Other than that, that's about all I got. I'm out of stuff to talk about at this point. So thanks everybody for coming. Don't forget to like the videos and subscribe to the channel. We had a couple people watching from Facebook and Twitch, which is always nice. And the folks watching on Twitter, I appreciate the attention as well. I'm not really sure where those numbers are coming from, but thanks Elon, I guess, for making it easy for me to attract an audience on Twitter. So it's going to be Origins is going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to it. I don't look forward to spending all the money I'm going to spend, but other than that, it's going to be great. So I will hopefully see a few of you there. And if not, then we will have to make arrangements for the future. So you guys all and gals and whoever else, have a great rest of the night, and we will see you all again soon as tomorrow night, in fact. So thanks everybody, and have a good one.